Hockey friends and families, Our Kids Play Hockey has been nominated for the 2025 Hockey Podcast of the Year via the Sports Podcast Awards, and we need your help to win this competition. All you got to do is head over to ourkidsplayhockey.com, look for the banner that says click here to vote for us, and once you dive into that, it's real simple. You enter your name, your email. It's a super honest competition. You will not be spammed. You find Our Kids Play Hockey on the list, click it, vote, and you're done. We really appreciate your support with this. Winning this award, which we've done in back-to-back years now, we are going for that hat trick, allows us to have better guests, has better conversations with hockey organizations, and really spread our youth hockey message that we do together as coaches, parents, and players. Thank you so much. Again, head over to ourkidsplayhockey.com, look for the banner that says click here to vote, and help us win together the 2025 Hockey Podcast of the Year. So pause right here, take care of that real quick, and then dive right back into this week's episode. Thank you. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to the end-of-year episode for Our Kids Play Hockey. It is I, Lee Elias, with Christie Casciano Burns and Mike Bonelli, and we are bringing you all the stats from the year today. We're going to share some of our favorite episodes. This is a great year in the review episode. We'll call it the wraparound wrap-up to end the year, since everybody has a fancy name for these things. I have all the stats right here. If you are a faithful listener of the show, you are going to want to listen to this episode because you're going to be as amazed at these stats as we are. And there's been some changes this year from last year's stats in terms of we have a new top city. We've got a lot of listens, new top episodes. I say we jump right in. What do you guys say? You want to jump into the stats?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, the first one is a really humbling one and a great one. We have ranked in the top 10% of all podcasts on Buzzsprout this year, which is our host, which is the host of many major podcasts. So we are in the top 10% of all podcasts, and that's based on average downloads per week. So it's not just overall listens. It means on a weekly basis, we have hit the top 10, and we are trending upward on that. Maybe we'll hit the top 5 here. We're not far off, believe it or not. So maybe we're in the top 6%. Who knows? But we're in the top 10%. So that's the first stat I wanted to share with everybody. And
congratulations, team. Yeah, and thank you to our listeners.
Yeah, that means you're coming back every week, which is a good thing. That means you're finding value every week. We did 137 episodes this year, averaging, I love that they put this on here, 2.63 episodes a week. Just so you know, I'm holding up the stat sheet that Buzzsprout gives us right here. So that's we used to do just 52 episodes a year. Now we're up to 137, and that includes all 4 shows: Our Kids Play Hockey, Our Girls Play Hockey, Our Kids Play Goalie, and The Ride to the Rink. So we're putting out a lot of content, and you're listening to it again, which is awesome. I think one of my favorite things that I hear, my friends, is when parents come up to me and say, "We listened to The Ride to the Rink on the ride to the rink," right? Which is Perfect. Exactly what it was intended for.
That's
which
why
is
we
really
designed it for the kids, so that they could kind of get pumped up before they hit the ice, or kind of give them some good lessons to think of on the way, or even on the ride home from the rink. That's a good time to listen to.
Right. And we're looking to expand that in the coming years. We got some pretty cool, exciting projects coming for you guys. Let's talk location. Let's talk some location. So first off, I always love this stat. So podcasts are tracked on 6 of the 7 continents. Obviously, we don't know who's listening in Antarctica. I'd like to think that we've had a listener there every once in a while. But this is a cool stat. We have had listens, significant listens, on all 6 continents that are listed: North America, Europe, South America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania, which is your Australia, New Zealand area. So we are global, my friends. We had listeners on 6 different continents, multiple countries, and thousands of listens in those countries, which is amazing when you think about this is an English-speaking show, so we are hitting non-English-speaking areas, and they are listening. Also proving once again that in North America, we need to learn more languages.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. I speak English and Canadian. That's what I always tell people. All right. So amongst those countries, let's go to the top 5. So 77 countries overall. I'm sorry, from the continents, let's go to the countries.
Right.
We have been listened to in 77 countries around the world. When you add in territories, it goes well over 100. Top countries coming in. We'll go backwards. Number 5. Do it like an award show. Number 5 listening country, Finland, Scandinavia.
Finland!
We thank you, Finland. This next one is new. This was not here last year. We get listeners in Scandinavia. Climbing the charts to number 4, Germany.
Wow.
A lot of listeners in Germany now, which is amazing, right?
It is.
Number 3, and if you listen to the show, this will not surprise those of you who listened last year. The UK. We have a large following in the United Kingdom. And for those of you listening who don't know, there's a lot of ice hockey in the UK. Multiple leagues, lots of players. Obviously, it doesn't compete with their football or some of their other sports in terms of popularity, but massive amounts of hockey in the UK. Number 2, Canada. Big number 2. Number 1, the United States.
Friends, hello.
Yeah. Now, this is what's funny. The United States still the top country, but we have had a big change in our most popular city. This might be a trend moving forward. We'll go backwards, though. The number 5 city, which was much higher last year, New York, Manhattan, and all the surrounding areas, the boroughs, right? Number 4, again, new to the list, Calgary, Alberta. All right.
I love it.
Calgary, depending where you're from. Alberta's on the list.
Great.
Number 3, which I believe was also number 3 last year, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Very
Massive
cool.
hockey following in that area. And then number 2, which was habitually our number 1. It has been dethroned. So if you're in this area, you have to start listening more if you want to catch up.
Right.
Chicago, Illinois is now number 2. Anybody want to take a guess at what number 1 is? This was. It's awesome. It's also. I don't want to say it's surprising. It's awesome though to see this. It means it's a big deal.
Boston, maybe?
Nope. Boston's on the top 10 though.
Okay.
Mike, any guess? For those of you listening, Mike has got his thinking cap on.
Yeah.
Is Buffalo still considered New York?
Buffalo's its own city. Yeah, it would be. It's not. Yeah, but it's not Buffalo. It's not Buffalo
or Rochester. I thought Christie might be bringing the fans.
You would think. We're not bringing it.
Do you guys want to know? You keep guessing if you want. I
want to know. Is it Southern state?
No.
Not a Southern
Again,
state.
this is the most popular city.
Huh.
This is, and I'm telling you this. It's not only just the most popular city. It's easily number 1 now. Like, so again, where Chicago was easily number 1, this one is about almost 1,000 more in terms of hotspots, which is a lot.
It sounds like we need to do a trip there.
Yeah, I would love to do a trip here with this group.
Do a little tour there.
I have only been there once.
Only once, so you have been there.
I've been there once, and I had to fly right out. And I've been asking to go back there for many years. Are you ready? You want me to unveil?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's hear it.
The United States may lead our countries. The number 1 city is Toronto, Ontario.
Ooh, wow. I love Toronto.
So Toronto.
I love it. Been there many times for our hockey trips.
Yeah.
Again, we start the show. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, which is literal. But we have spanned Canada, my friends, and for the Canadian
Toronto's great because it's the biggest hockey market, right, in the world. So I think it's huge. It's great that we can reach those folks and get the feedback from them as well. It's great.
Had the best tournaments in Toronto, I got to tell you. Amazing.
And the Hockey Hall of Fame is up there. Yes, a massive amount of Canada's population in that area. Love that we're also in Calgary and out western Canada, central Canada, depending on how you want to look at that. But for our Canadian listeners, welcome aboard. Good to have you. And
thank you.
Yeah, definitely have had a lot more Canadians on the show this year as guests too. I'm sure that played into it. But Toronto leading the charge by a lot. We love you guys. Thank you, Canada as a whole and Toronto. All right, let's dive into some of our top episodes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say what our 5 top episodes were from this year. All right, we're going to link all of them, by the way, in the show notes. So if you haven't heard any of these, you'll go down there, you can tap them, you can listen to them. But from this chart, apparently you have listened to these. And then after this, we're going to go through some of our favorite episodes. It's a little bit of a highlight reel from the year. So let's go 5 to 1 again.
Sure.
All right. And these are from 2024. Okay, here we go. Number 5. This will make you guys laugh in the sense of like, I can see why people would want to listen to this one. Episode was titled, "When is it worth driving an hour for youth hockey?"
Yes, that was a good one.
That was a good one. We did that earlier in the year. Yeah. When is it worth driving an hour for youth hockey is number 5. So,
and what was our answer? Never? Was our answer never?
You'll have to listen to the episode, Mike.
Damn, now I got to listen to that.
Well, I bet you your best guess is there. I do remember there was a lively discussion. It was more than just the drive time, right? It was more about what you're getting out of that drive time.
Right.
And again, we were talking more not for games so much as like, are you driving an hour to get to a practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I've seen people do incredible drives up I-95 in this area. So when is it worth driving an hour for youth hockey was number 5. Coming in number 4, this is an interesting one. Cultivating love for hockey beyond the ice. Insight from the Capitals Youth Hockey Development Program. That made the list. Definitely shared that with the Capitals fan base. But cultivating love for hockey beyond the ice, probably an important topic. We talk all the time about being diversified and that hockey cannot be your only identity. So that's an interesting message. I also think it says a lot about our audience. It's funny. We've had guests that their episodes haven't released yet, my friends, that have come on here and said, "Do you really want me to talk about youth hockey? You really want to tell you what we think about youth hockey?" And we've told those people, this is your audience. Trust me, right? This is not the crazy hockey people. These are the people who live in the crazy hockey world, and they want to hear from you. So that's number 4. Number 3, which I know is a favorite of all of us, a deep dive into hockey, parenting, and life lessons with John Buccigross.
Yeah.
Awesome episode we did earlier in the year. Those John Buccigross, ESPN announcer, hockey man, college hockey fan. I mean, that was awesome. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this, but he had to catch a flight. And he said, like, I only have this amount of time on this day.
Right.
And he jumped on. I'm pretty sure he went up to the last possible second on that episode to make his flight.
He did.
I think he made his flight.
The conversation so much, he wasn't looking at the watch. And he's like, oh, I got to go. But he just got lost in the whole conversation. And I'm pretty sure it was a tight time for him to go from where he was to catch the flight. But he stayed to the very last possible minute. That's how exciting the conversation was.
Yeah, well, he was on the air that night, so I'm pretty sure he made his flight. But this is the type of conversation. I think if he could have switched to his phone and just kept going in his Uber, he would have stayed on with us until he got to the gate.
Sure.
But that was a great episode also, not just because it was him, but he really dived into his experience as a hockey dad. Obviously he went through a divorce during that. He talked about that. I mean, it was a pretty interesting look into his life and what youth hockey means to him. And he has so much love for what hockey has brought his family. Again, absolutely one you have to listen to. Number 2, again, this is kind of one we do every year. We'll do one again in 2025. This one was titled March Madness, Preparing for Tryouts in Youth Hockey. We always know why that's a fan favorite.
Right.
It's a crazy time of year. In fact, we're at the end of the year, and Mike, I'm going to throw it to you on this. This is the time of year people start asking questions. Where are you going next year? Why would people want to go there?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's nuts.
March Madness.
Dynamite dropping, Mike, as always. No, it is nuts. It is nuts. By the way, we're not doing an episode on that right now, but our advice to you is at this time of the year, just relax and enjoy the end of the year.
Enjoy the season. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it yet. No, don't disappear from your current team looking for next year's team. You're on this team right now. Stay there. That's usually our advice anyway. March Madness, preparing for tryouts in youth hockey. Number 2, number 1, the number 1 episode totally makes sense. With the title of the show being Our Kids Play Hockey. The number 1 episode of 2024. I'm imagining a drum roll here. Okay, here we go. Our Kid Made It to the NHL with Tom and Ellen Atkinson.
Yeah.
The number 1 episode of 2024 makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Cam Atkinson, an NHL player. Man, Tom and Ellen just really walked us through their entire journey with their kids from youth hockey all the way to the pros. And it was a really great insight into A, that there is no direct path to the NHL, and B, that while it's amazing that their kid played in the NHL, even they said the life lessons that the kids learned along the way was the most important thing.
And you remember, they have 5 boys, and they shared the absolute chaos early on raising 5 boys. They didn't all play hockey. They were going in all kinds of different directions. And it was such great sound advice. And again, their message to parents is, don't get caught up in the politics and the ugliness, but really take time to just enjoy the journey, even as chaotic as it may seem. They got through it, and all 5 kids are successful. And as you mentioned, one actually made it to the NHL, and Cam. And what a great story! Great parenting stories were shared at that episode.
Yeah, also great kid, right? And Cam. Go ahead, Mike.
No, it's just those are they really brought it to a to a hometown level. Like you when you listen to both of them speak about youth hockey, it was the exact same stuff all of us experienced.
Yeah.
Just getting through that gauntlet, and Cam happened to, on the hockey side, end up getting out of it. But all the kids have done tremendous, and I think what they've done for the hockey community and their own community is tremendous.
Yeah, agree.
100%. And that rounds up the top 5. We are going to go through some of our favorite episodes, and I have to remember when we go through the top 5, it's an interesting list, because if we recorded an episode and released it in January, that episode has had more time to marinate with the audience. But just to give you all an idea of how much the show has grown. And again, we have a lot of new listeners. So there's a good chance you haven't listened to some of those episodes. And again, we're going to link them in the show notes and on our website for this episode. But when you look at the full year and you look at, we've been doing this podcast for 5 years. Right. This is a really telling stat. 2 or 3 of those top 5 from this year are in our all-time top 5 already.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it shows you how big the audience, you guys listening, is getting, that these are so powerful that they're jumping into our top 5. Some of those episodes have had 2, 3, 4 years to marinate. And we have several in our all-time top 5, definitely in our top 10, which is awesome. But let's get to our favorites. I'm going to remind everybody too. Again, the Our Kids Play Hockey Network now houses 4 shows: the Our Kids Play Hockey Show, Our Kids Play Goalie, Our Girls Play Hockey, which has had a massive launch and success this year. We want to thank our co-host Sherry Hudspeth, for that, and the Ride to the Rink. So, I asked my co-host here to narrow it down to 3, and me being me, I got it down to 10.
Yeah, I know it was so hard.
It was so hard.
You're scrubbing through the episodes, and you like, oh, that was a great conversation. Okay, write that one down. And then another one comes, and then another. There's so many great conversations that we've had with some just all different varieties of people who are, pros to just regular parents, to people who are really rolling up their sleeves and trying to make a difference in the hockey community that they live in. It's really quite amazing, just the variety of interviews we've had too. And even just our own stuff when the 3 of us get together and knock heads sometimes.
Just commiserate together or collaborate.
It's just so fun. Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah. It's funny, to your point, Christy, just going through my head, in the last year, this is pretty amazing. We've had Hall of Famers, NHL athletes, obviously retired and current. We've had collegiate athletes. We've had the parents of NHL athletes.
Right.
Obviously, we've had several professionals, meaning doctors and people on. Yeah. We've had, I think we had a Ride to the Rink with someone who was 7 or 8 years old.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Like we have really, I didn't think about that till you said it. We've literally had everybody on, and we always have 3 crazy parents on the show every episode. Right. We've had Olympians on the show. Right. Yeah. I'm looking through this.
Really impressive.
We've had broadcasters on the show, GMs on the show. Obviously, every position's been represented.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing when you think about it. We've had extremely high level executives from the NHL on the show. So we're doing pretty good. All right, listen, here's what we're going to do. Because I have 10, we're going to go around the horn here. I'll go to Christy, then Mike. Okay. And if any of your top ones are on my list, I'm going to remove them from my list in the interest of time.
Okay, that's fair. Okay,
Christy, I'd love to start with you.
1. starting with number 3, I'm going with Jason Podolin, which is a recent one. We just recorded this one. I encourage everybody to listen because it was such a riveting conversation with his focus on proper mindset, something that all of your kids should be listening to, because they're all going to go through slumps. They're all going to go through ups and downs through their hockey career. And Jason really did such a great job of helping you find the balance, the sanity. I love that episode. So that was number 3. Number 2, John Buccigross, got to, fellow broadcaster. What a great story. I especially loved when he shared the 4 core. And if you don't remember that, it was 4 virtues that every hockey parent needs, which includes selflessness, energy, creativity, and my favorite, affection. So that was fascinating conversation. Really took a deep dive into parenting with John. Excellent episode. And then my favorite, it also happens to be the number 1 with Tom and Ellen Atkinson. We just talked about that, but they really, they were so fun too. They were just so much energy and so much positivity. I just love that episode, and it's not a surprise to me that one came in as number 1.
Yeah, you want to have a drink with
everybody.
Yeah, you want to hang out with them in the stands. They're the people
you
want to be.
It's just, yeah, they're just what personalities, both of them.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Those are great picks, Christy. I love that you shared the John Buccigross Core 4. And again, all these are going to be linked in the show notes. So make sure if you haven't listened to these, you can get these on your holiday or New Year list here as we're recording this at the end of the year. All right, Bonelli, let's sauce it to you. These better be good, man. These better be good.
Yeah, I know. So I try to go with a theme because I think there's a theme for me in the show itself. Like, I love doing the show because it helps me learn so much about the sport. And because my kids are in the sport, because I work with all these kids that are in the sport of hockey, I tend to gravitate towards, I love the episodes, the bantering, and how I grew up as a hockey parent, and I like all of them, obviously, but I really like the ones where I feel like I can leave much more educated about educating the people I work with, right? So it's one of the benefits. So I think I don't know if they're my top 3, but 3 that I really liked, outside of the ones that Christy mentioned and the ones that are obviously in our top 10 list anyway. I loved, I think it's Addison Lentz, right? The physical therapist we had on. I thought that was really, like, for me, it was so timely, and it was just a great way to, hear about, what a professional thinks about how players develop and when they develop and what you need to look for, and making sure that you're not having these overuse injuries. And I think when I talk to players, it's, if we want to get to an end game, well, we got to get you there healthy. And, to me, that was a great one to hear. And I think every parent should listen to that one, especially the ones that are getting ready to do, a 2-week boot camp in hockey, trying to catch their kids up. Might be a good time to listen to that about, be careful of, overuse injuries and how you deal with that. The other one I liked a lot was Riley Cote. Is that, the mindfulness discussion we had, and, using that. I know, Lee, you talk about it a lot in the show, and I take a lot of your stuff, but I think that whole mindfulness side of things of, just understanding and preparing, and how coaches can help players prepare, how us as parents can help our players prepare in a world of hockey that's obviously evolving, but, knowing that you need to be really conscious of the mental game. And, one of the ones I liked the most, because I think it's affecting our kids the most, was Larissa Mills and the horrific episode we had about screen routine. And
by horrific, he means it was unveiling of the knowledge. Yeah.
Well, just hearing the stats and the truth, and because we all know the truth. I mean, we're sitting looking at it. We know what the truth is.
Right.
I think a lot of us, and I see it, every day on the road with these kids, my kids, other people's kids, other people I'm talking to about their kids. It's just this epidemic of what we're gonna have to deal with over the next, few years with kids. And she really was a very eye-opening discussion. Love to have her back on for follow-ups and updates. And real. And I think she did give some on that episode, gave some great strategies.
Oh, she did. She gave a screen routine. Like she gave routines for your kids.
Like, and it was awesome. But it's like everything else, right? I mean, it's it's the hardest thing to do.
And that's a really good conversation. Right. Go ahead.
The little side one I think I liked was, I don't even think we had a guest. It was the how to deal with pressure, and just the discussions on, and I think Christie, you mentioned that, like some of our, but my episodes I really like are the ones sometimes we come on and talk,
right,
and it evolves. Because there's nobody giving us this information. It's more of a like what are we dealing with every day?
What we've lived through, what we've experienced ourselves, and passing that advice on. And I say this so often. I wish I had this podcast when I was a younger hockey parent. Just very first years of trying to navigate this craziness, and this podcast is so helpful because we're sharing, Lee, as a younger parent of younger kids.
The youngest brother here.
Yeah, me who's been through every single phase of it, and Mike who's right in the thick of it. So it's so much value in actual experiences of what to do, what not to do, how to navigate it. It's really, I agree with you, Mike. Sometimes our best episodes are just the three of us just kind of just sharing our journey.
Yeah, and when you have other people on, and like Lee's point, like I walk in the rinks every day now that other people like, hey, I love that ride to the rink you had, or I really like that episode. And now we've done so many of these. They're like, oh, I love the ride to the rink you just did on this. I'm like,
which one?
What did it say? What did I say? And
go back 374 episodes.
And then I have to listen to it, because there are so many people that once they hear once, which I love. This cool, to me. This is one of the cooler statistics. Once they listen to, they were introduced to it now, but then they go back. And they listen to all those other ones.
Yeah.
That, because now they have, I like this. This is of interest to me. This, and this. And they can pick and choose now on where they are in their journey. Like maybe they don't need to listen to, the physical therapist discussion and mindfulness stuff because they have a 6-year-old. So maybe they don't even worry about it yet. But they might want to listen to, oh my God, how do I prepare for a hockey tournament? Like, what do I do? How do I pack for that? How do I get my teenager when I'm in a hotel room with them for the weekend not to use all the towels on Friday night and leave their dad with no towels for the rest of the weekend? Those are kind of episodes I like.
And trust us, that will happen if you have not experienced it.
I'm like, there's another person in the room.
Yeah. We'll do an episode in the new year. This how to keep towels secret from your kids. I have the same problem, Mike. That's pretty funny. But Mike, you bring up a really great point. One of the coolest stats, and this is not one we share all the time, is that for most of the year, every 30 days, within a 30-day window, every episode we've ever recorded to gets at least one listen. It's always true within 90 days, right? So over the course of 3 months, any 3-month period during the year, every episode we've ever recorded has been listened to at least once.
That's amazing.
And it proves your point that people are going back. It's one of the reasons we're very successful as a team here and as a community, is that these episodes have evergreen ability to make sense. Even the one we did in COVID with doctors about COVID somehow gets a listen once in a while, because it almost doesn't apply anymore with those NYU doctors. But that was an early on episode almost 5 years ago, like I said.
Right.
So yeah, and I definitely want to tap on it too, that it's so cool to have the conversations with you two. And again, we were talking before the show about how much my older brother means to me, and that he kind of paved the way for me in a lot of ways, as older siblings do. They don't realize they're doing it, but the two of you have been such mentors to me. And look, it sounds weird to say this. I'm not making this about me. But I am living proof that this stuff helps, because my youth hockey journey has been made so much more easier, but also enriched because of the lessons that I learned from this show. Right. And we're all able to kind of share in real time our journey. But yeah, I can say it from my son starting in Adams 5 or 6 years ago now. And both my kids play. This show has been wonderful for me. I mean, I've benefited greatly from it. And obviously those of you listening to are as well, or else you wouldn't be listening. All right. I'm going to try and run through these quick. And I'll do it kind of chronologically, because that's how I have them written out here. But we'll say these are the highlighted episodes as well, like must listens if you're listening to the show. So one of my favorite ones, obviously, Butchergrass was on all of our lists, I'm sure. So one of my favorite ride to the rinks was titled Mastering the Art of Passing. We recorded that all the way back in February.
Okay.
And I'm told that was very eye-opening. Yeah, it was very eye-opening for a lot of kids. We did a full episode on that as well. But just kids listening to that and saying, hey, you know, I never thought about it like that, that passing is a valuable skill. To me as a coach was a triumph. Our kids play goalie. This episode did very well. Tryout strategies for goalies with the goalie doctor. And that episode I really loved because it wasn't just about goalies trying out, but it was about how to look at goalies in tryouts, right? Whether you're a coach, a player, or a goalie themselves. That was back in March. We did that when tryouts are the top of mind. Our kids play hockey. I love this one. This is more of a hockey fan one, not so much our kids play hockey, but we did that one inside the Situation Room with Sean Ellis from the NHL back in May 18th. That was really cool. So for those of you that watch the NHL and ever want to know about the decisions made when they go to the Situation Room in Toronto, we spoke to the guy that makes the decision.
Yeah.
Right. Again, Sean Ellis back in May 18th that released Our Kids Play Hockey. This next one we got to shout out because this was one of our most esteemed guests of all time. Our Kids Play Hockey from July 11th. We had Kim Davis on, who's essentially third in line of the commissioner at the NHL. And she is a trailblazer. She is changing the game. And she is a massive leader in the space of ice hockey globally. So for her to come on and give us an hour, a good hour, was a triumph. So Kim Davis, if you're listening, thanks for that. Got to say this one back in August, Our Kids Play Hockey, Brian Trottier, Hall of Famer, 7-time Stanley Cup winner, if you include his coaching one. An honor to interview Brian Trottier. And he told such great stories on that episode and tapped into youth hockey. That one was a must listen. And then another one, our girls play hockey. We did one about, so you want to play on the Olympic hockey team with Katie Million, who's essentially the GM of the women's national team and program. That was an amazing episode. Again, I'm gushing here thinking about all these. That was back on October 8th. Another Our Kids Play Goalie, October 17th. Steve Valaket came on. Steve Valaket, a former NHL goalie, works for MSG Networks. I'll tell you why this is making my list. I walked in the house in November, my house, and my son's saying, I'm listening to this goalie podcast, and it's fantastic. And he's listening to our podcast with Steve Valaket.
What a riot.
And he's taking notes. He's taking notes from Valaket, and he applied some of this stuff to his game. I remember he talked about us with the chicken wing arm saves, and I couldn't believe that. And
that's amazing.
He tells people, it's funny. He doesn't say, I listen to my dad's podcast. He says, I listen to a goalie podcast.
That's
and I was like, I'm sitting with him, and I don't say anything because I don't know if he doesn't want people to know or not. But I'm sitting with him, I'm looking at him, I'm like, all right.
Hey, kid, that's Our Kids Play Hockey podcast. Yeah, I have a little something to do with that, kid. Yeah,
I was so flattered that my own kid he discovered this on his own. I mean, he knows we do it, but like he looked for goalie podcast, and we were the ones that came up, which is amazing to me.
Wow.
And then my last one on the list here, recent. This is more of a recent release. Back on December 3rd, Our Girls Play Hockey with Brianna Decker, who was just inducted in the USA Hockey Hall of Fame, Olympian, gold medalist. She at Shattuck St. Mary's. The whole thing about prep school and getting into prep school. Obviously, it's surrounded girls hockey, but it's just great advice. These guests, I mean, I am so humbled that we can get these type of people, and they want to talk. You guys have seen it, and when we get pre-shows, for those of you listening, so obviously we have some time with the guests before we hit record, and before and after. The amount of times we hear, wow, this is a really great show. We really need this show. Or that like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this stuff. I've been wanting to talk about this stuff forever. That tells you listening. This isn't just important to us. It's important to the larger hockey leadership out there and the community out there that these conversations have to happen. And Christie, you said this a few minutes ago. The conversation is the key. Yeah. Right? Like we don't have these conversations enough. And that's part of the problem. It's like, Mike, you said it too, the learning. Excuse me. The learning comes from the conversation without ego, without just trying to prove yourself right. The learning comes from that.
Right. And I love that there's no spin to it. There's no concocted narrative. It's just honest conversations, which makes it so unique and so rare and sought after. And that's why I think this podcast is growing.
Yeah, it's growing. It continues to grow. We didn't even get, so these stats we're giving you are just the podcast. There have literally been millions of views on our micro content that goes out through social media, right? So I think there's a large audience out there also that doesn't listen to the episodes, but they watch those mini clips to get those thoughts and those quick hits from our guests, from us. So we got to give a shout out to them too, because our social media following is healthy. I'll say that. Very hard to track where that's going, but from these numbers that I have here, it's a global audience. But above all, amazing year of podcasting here. Looking forward.
You look at that. We checked all the boxes. We set, like everybody does, in 2024, January, we set some goals for this podcast, where we wanted to take it, what we wanted to do. And congratulations to our team, because we checked all the boxes. And I think we've actually exceeded our expectations, which is really exciting.
100%. And that's just 2024, right? Well, we are up. Voting is up now for the podcast of the year again. We're obviously been shortlisted for that, so we'll see where that goes. But looking ahead to 2025, this is one of the cool things. Our producer, Caitlin Reese, does such a great job, right? And our editor, Xavier Cruz, obviously. We have a whole team here behind the scenes. But we have gotten ahead on our recording schedule so much. We've been booking into next year. So I can actually tell you listening now, I won't say any names, but I will tease you all that we have a Stanley Cup winning coach coming on the show. We have an episode with a NHL player who had played in a Stanley Cup coming up on the show. We have a top-rated hockey podcast guest outside of Our Kids Play Hockey coming on the show. We have a top-rated hockey personality who's written several books coming on the show. This is all in the new year. And there's other guests that we're about to confirm that I can't tell you about yet that are just as big as that. And then on top of that, the three of us will commiserate on episodes throughout the year as well.
That's right.
About things that are going on. And you can, we our annual episodes about tryouts, end of season, season in review, that do good every year. We'll make sure we keep doing those.
Right.
And then I think in 2025, my friends, we've had so many requests that we build apparel and other gifts. We'll start making some Our Kids Play Hockey merch or swag. Aside from the beautiful mugs that we all have, I know people want those as well. But above all, to end the episode, to end the year, it's you, the listener, we have to thank the most, right? If you're not listening, we're not broadcasting.
That's right.
And we appreciate you so much. We appreciate the letters, the emails, the texts that we get from you. Mike mentioned it. We get stopped a lot now. It wasn't like this 5 years ago. Mike, people go, "Oh, you have a podcast? You have a podcast?" Now it's like, I listen to your show. And, and Mike, to your point, we don't even know what episode they listen to.
Yeah.
They just really like that.
Or the recommendations. I like that too. I mean, like, hey, you guys should do a show on this or that's something really just, and we're getting, it's nice that people are not only listening, but then thinking about like, well, I want to hear something about this.
Yeah.
It's really helpful. Not that we're running out of things to talk about.
No, but we always welcome the feedback.
100%.
Yeah.
I will remind the three of you, I always like to say this at the end of the year, that 5 years ago when we were starting to think about this, the big question, the concern was, are we going to have enough topics?
Right. I remember Mike reaching out to me and saying, what do you think about doing a podcast? I'm like, I don't know anything about podcasts. I have no clue. I have a million questions.
Yeah, but you had the blueprint. The book was the blueprint, so it was great. It was easy. Just follow the book. But now you got to write another book so we can continue with more.
Well, that might be a
and I think that we can combine
project.
all these episodes and make a book out of it. I think that should be one of our goals.
The listeners would love that. Again, Christie's book, My Kids Play Hockey, is obviously the basis for this show, along with a lot of her articles in USA Hockey Magazine. So check those out. Sorry, Toronto, we haven't gotten in Hockey Canada's magazine yet, but you can tell them that we should be doing that. We can be the official podcast of Hockey Canada.
But all those Canadians, all those Torontoans, the Mike Weavers and Kim McCulloughs and all the folks that are up there, keep pushing. And I think it's great to have, I think, again, in these huge hockey markets, everybody wants somebody to talk about the sanity of youth hockey.
Yeah.
And it's great that people are listening. And I think from my side, if you can just, sway 1 or 2 people per team,
sure.
It's going to help everyone.
Yeah.
100%. I've come accustomed now to saying youth and minor hockey because our audience keeps growing. And I'm always reminded that in Canada, they say minor hockey more than youth hockey. But for those of you in America, that's how they do it up there. But what a great episode, guys. What a great year. I really am excited about 2025. The audience growing. Again, just to echo what Christie and Mike said, we love hearing from you. You drive these episodes. If you have an episode idea, you can email us, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. You can also now easily text us. In the show notes, there's a link. You tap it. You can text right to the show. It is us that gets it for episode ideas or questions. Sometimes we just get questions in there that we don't make episodes out of. We just write emails back and have a great conversation with that person. So I want you to know that's available to you as well. But I think that's going to do it for our Kids Play Hockey wraparound review. Whatever you want to call it.
And one more time, kudos to Caitlin, the glue.
The glue.
Our
producer.
It's
sticking. That's her nick. We call her the glue. And Xavier, our editor.
Caitlin, we love you.
Yeah, and all of you out there. So let's do it one more time for this year. From Mike Bonelli and Christie Casciano Burns, I'm Lee Elias. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Wishing you all the most wonderful new year. We'll see you in 2025. Take care, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.